and welcome to my channel. My name is Martine, and if you are new here, I do videos on Vedic astrology mainly, but also with some tropical astrology insights, and I focus on both relationship and natal astrology. And if you like this video and you would like to see more content from me, please like, subscribe, hit the notifications bell to see when I will post a new video. Also, please comment in the comment section with anything that you would like to give as feedback for this video. And also, if you're interested in a personal consultation, I do consultations on a wide variety of topics. You can check out the video description. I will leave my contact information there. Thank you. And also, I have started a tarot channel more recently than this channel. And I'm also going to be linking that in the video description. In case you like tarot, you might want to go ahead and check it out. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, maybe consider subscribing if you are interested in tarot. Thank you. So, today's video is going to be about transits for 2023. And as I said, I am starting with Aries because that was the first sign that I extracted among my ruffles. So I'm going to start as usual with an introduction, and this introduction is going to be the same for all of the videos in this series for 2023. So if you listen for it once, then it will be the same for all of the videos in this series. So mainly I'm going to start by saying that as I also mentioned last year, you can use these videos with predictions for 2023 for your moon sign as well as for your ascendant sign. You probably remember that I mentioned that you can take your moon sign as ascendant and look at the rest of your planets from your moon sign, and that is called a Chandra Lagna chart. Meaning literally taking the moon as an ascendant and looking at the rest of the placements from the moon. And especially if the moon in your horoscope, in your natal chart, is in a lower degree than the ascendant or the Lagna, it might be particularly relevant for you to look at the moon chart as opposed to the Lagna chart. Both of them are important though. It's just that in certain situations, the Chandra Lagna or the Moon Lagna can be more important when it comes to predictions. Okay, that's something that I wanted to say. Also, I have divided the year into three main parts as usual with respect to transits. Now, in the first roughly 2 weeks of 2023, the placements will be basically very much the same as they were in the end of 2022, or as they are going to be at the end of 2022. So if you want to see your predictions, you can just go back to my 2022 series and rewatch the chart 3 phase for the ascendant that you have or the moon sign that you have in my videos for 2022. I'm gonna link the playlist for 2022 transits in this video description. So go ahead and watch that for the roughly 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of 2023. So from January 1st until roughly January 14th, 2023, when Saturn is going to be in Capricorn. So the main divisions that I have looked at for 2023 are from roughly January 14th until April 19th, 2023, when Rahu is going to be in Aries, Jupiter is going to be in Pisces, Saturn is in Aquarius. The second chart is going to be when Rahu, from around April 19th until December 2nd, 2023, when Rahu is going to be in Aries, Jupiter is going to be in Aries, Saturn is going to be in Aquarius. And then the final section is going to be from December 2nd until the end of 2023, or roughly December 31st, 2023, when Rahu will be in Pisces, Jupiter in Aries, Saturn in Aquarius. So these are the three main sections that I will be looking at for all ascendants. And if you look at the chart, I have marked the planets. RA means Rahu, JU means Jupiter, SA means Saturn, KE means Ketu. And I will be marking the aspects for each of these with a different color. Yellow for Jupiter, red for Rahu, or pink for Rahu, gray for Saturn, and that's about it. I haven't marked the Ketu aspects because Ketu is always opposite Rahu. Okay, so Ketu, just like Rahu and Jupiter, also aspects the 5th and the 9th houses from itself in addition to the house that it opposes. So this is just for you to know, but I haven't marked them, these aspects, Ketu's aspects, on the chart just to keep it, simple. And yeah, this is pretty much what I wanted to say as an introduction. And now I'm going to get into the individual descriptions for the sign at hand. Welcome, Pisces. This is your predictions for 2023, and just as a quick reminder, you can apply this for both the ascendant sign as well as the moon sign. And if the moon sign is in a lower degree of any sign when compared to your ascendant, you might actually look towards your moon sign more, just as a quick reminder. Okay, so Pisces, for the first phase of this year, which will start from roughly January 14th until April 19th, 2023, you will have Jupiter in your ascendant, which is awesome from many points of view. So in many ways, you are definitely the chosen ones this year, or among the chosen ones, in the sense that this is definitely going to be a time of growth, a time of renewed faith and optimism and confidence in yourself, especially since Jupiter is the natural ruler of your first house and it is transiting through your first house. So this period is going to be very significant in defining yourself, defining who you are, your personality, what you stand for, what you don't stand for. And basically, it's a good time to question your beliefs. It's a good time to see which beliefs actually are authentic to you. What do you really believe in? In other words, are you believing in the things you actually do believe in, or have you adopted beliefs that other people have kind of imprinted on your mind over time? So this is a good year to think about where you stand with respect to your belief system. This is also going to be a time when you are very optimistic, when you're likely going to have a renewed sense of energy, of faith in yourself and your ability to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve, which automatically is going to translate into a lot of opportunities showing up to you, at the very least, because you are open to opportunities. So during this year, you're going to be a lot more open to receiving all kinds of opportunities, chances for growth, and so on and so forth. Since Jupiter is aspecting both the 5th and the 9th houses, which are the houses that have to do with higher education, and also the fact that Jupiter is in itself the signifier of higher education, this is a great year for those of you who are going to university, who are, maybe wanting to finish studies, who want to start a new program, especially when it comes to, formal educations, institutions of education, especially college level and above. So this is for all higher education, college, postgraduate or master's degree, and PhD, and also any kind of specializing courses. You're going to be favored this year, and if you're starting these things this year, it's more likely to bring you a lot of benefits. It will improve your life overall. You're definitely also just going to focus a lot of your energy on these houses. The 5th house, first of all, the house of self, which is you. And then also the 5th, the 7th, and the 9th houses. So these show areas to do with education, children, also has to do with hobbies. So you might be finding yourself spending a lot more energy on your hobbies and learning what it is you love. Also, you might feel drawn to maybe start a side hustle, or you are just gonna pick up new things, new hobbies, just to see what you love to do. And of course, some of them could turn out to be side hustles. And the reason I say this is because you have also the 10th house there involved. So I feel like during this year, you might be particularly focused on, how can you turn your career around in such a way that you can do what you love for a living, or at least find more meaning in your life, in your work life, I mean. So you're gonna feel drawn to, maybe investing more time in trying different things, maybe even a career change. It is possible. But mostly I see that you're going to be looking towards how can you turn something you love into a career path. I feel like that's going to be a thing for a lot of you. But of course, I always mention this, you always have to look at the individual charts, because these are, some general energies, and they can easily be overthrown by more powerful configurations in the individual charts. Just a quick disclaimer. So this is what I see though. So I see the fact that you're going to be focusing on finding what you love, basically getting in touch with your inner child. And I know that sounds kind of cliche and whatever, but that's literally what I see here. Like, you might be thinking, hey, I used to like drawing. Why do I no longer draw? And you might be, deciding, this year I'm going to be spending this many amount of hours per week drawing, or pursuing some other hobby that I have maybe ignored up until this point, or ignored for a long period of time. Also, when it comes to your partner, and not just your partner, actually, that's another thing that I wanted to say. You are favored when it comes to romance, because whether you want to start a new relationship, whether you are already in a relationship and you want to take it to the next level, even getting married, this is a great time for you for all of these things, because all of the romance houses are aspected by Jupiter, which also happens to be the natural signifier of the husband, and also one of the signifiers of marriage, therefore, because Jupiter is also the natural ruler of the 9th house, which is actually the house of marriage also. This is why the Navamsha, the chart of marriage, is actually calculated based on the 9th house, not the 7th house. Because marriage is seen as this, religious, spiritual thing when you think about it from a spiritual perspective. That's why it's connected to the 9th house. And when you have both the 7th and the 9th houses aspected by Jupiter, and you also have the 9th house aspected by Saturn, this is a particularly good time to actually tie the knot with someone, as in go through a formal marriage ceremony, and or take a serious relationship to the next level, so moving in together, etc., making a higher level of commitment. And since Jupiter also aspects the 5th, this also shows that it's a good time to meet a long-term potential partner, right? Not just because it aspects the 5th, but also because it aspects all the other ones as well. And you also have some Saturn there aspecting the 9th. And also what it means, last but not least, is you're going to be favored financially. So this is definitely a good year to look into investments. Actually, especially with the aspect on the 5th house, any investments that you make during this time are actually more likely to bear fruit in the future. But this doesn't mean, of course, fall for any pyramid scheme out there. You still have to do your research, and you have to be thorough about what you should invest your money in. But of course, investment could just be, especially with Jupiter and especially with all these houses being activated, probably one of the best investments could be a course during this time. So learning something new, learning a new skill, maybe taking a course on investing, right? So the knowledge itself is an investment, a great investment in yourself that could later on, bring you more fruit, as in money, because Jupiter also rules cash. And this is something that I will say with a little bit more caution, because I don't want to encourage people to gamble. But with these aspects also of Jupiter on the 5th and on the 9th, this is also a good time to, I don't know, play the lottery, or like, like do these things that are a little bit more risky. And I say a little bit, I don't mean like go to a casino and, waste your life savings. But you can test the waters during this time, maybe gamble a little bit. You might actually win during this time, because Jupiter is, especially since Jupiter is in Pisces, it's really, really strong and aspecting the house of speculative gain. So yes, unless you have, this is an important mention, unless you have specific natal chart configurations that clearly show that you're not meant to have major gains from speculative investments, because there are some configurations that actually say that. Right? But in general, right, you might actually just come into some windfalls during this year, provided that you also make a little bit of effort in that direction. So yes. Another thing that I wanted to say is, if you are in a relationship, this is a good time for you and your partner. The relationship is going to go through a good phase. You're going to feel mutually supported. You're also going to be compelled to focus a lot of time on your partner. And also, this is a good time for a career as well. It's a really good time for you. You're probably going to get more opportunities in your career, more advancements, potentially. The reason I say this is because Jupiter rules the 10th house, and it is aspecting the 7th, which is the 10th from the 10th. So this is a potential great aspect for someone who's looking for a promotion or looking to get more money, stuff like that. Or, of course, changing your job. Let me see some other stuff. Also, you have Saturn. Okay, moving on to Saturn. So you have Saturn in the 12th house. First and foremost, this to me kind of shows that this is not a great time to engage in long distance travel. Which is not to say that you can't do that, or I'm not telling you not to do that, especially if you have something planned for a long time. Although with Saturn here, it just shows that there will be obstacles, okay? So let's say you have been planning to, I don't know, take a trip to another continent that you have been planning to go to for a long time. If Saturn is not going to completely block it, you might find yourself facing frustration. So just be mentally and emotionally prepared for this. I also speak from personal experience, not with this house placement particularly, but other placements where, I've had Saturn transits. Saturn will basically create grief in any area that it sits in. There's no other way to put it. It will test you. It will test you, and it will want to make sure that you are thorough. You are as thorough as possible. So, for instance, let me give an example of how Saturn can create unpleasantness in this area. Let's say you want to take a trip to Australia, but you don't properly read I think they have like biosecurity rules, like many places, right? You're not allowed to bring, I don't know, herbs from home, but you don't pay attention and you get detained in customs or something, or like you lose your stuff and you maybe have to pay a fine, right? Because you didn't properly read that, like the biosecurity rules of that country. This is just a small example, right? This is what you can hope to deal with Saturn there. Another interpretation, which is quite interesting, is that, Saturn there, the 12th house is the house of losses. And let me check something. Yeah, and so you have the ruler of the 12th in the 12th, and you also have the ruler of the 11th in the 12th. So I feel like you might know what I'm about to say. This could potentially show a loss of a friendship. This could potentially also show loss of gains. So this could be that, especially since the 11th house has to deal with gains coming from your career, this could be a situation where, I don't know, maybe you are expecting to get a huge bonus this year from your job, but for some reason you are not going to get it. During this time, I mean, for some reason. Or, I don't know, like they'll tell you they have to cut costs for your department and you're not going to get, I don't know, they're going to decrease your like health insurance plan or something like that. It could be something like that. I don't want to scare anyone, but generally those are the lines of development that could happen because you have the connection between the 12th and the 11th. Another interpretation could just be if you have an older sibling, this older sibling could be moving away in a faraway land, or they could take it or travel to a faraway land. Another interpretation could be you might lose a friend. That's another thing. Or a friend of yours is going to be moving to a faraway land or traveling to a faraway land. 12th house is long distance and long-term travel. So in any case, there could be some sense of you are losing someone, at least for a significant amount of time, from these categories that I mentioned. So a friend or an older sibling or just someone, an acquaintance that you've known for a long time. Another thing, let me see. You could actually, one of the most positive expressions for some of you is this could turn into a gain from your secret enemies. So the way that this could work, for instance, is, let's say, I don't know, I mean, this is a pretty far-fetched scenario, especially nowadays where most people are working from home. But just to give you an example, it's like, let's say, I don't know, someone insults you at work and you record it and then you take it to court, or you go to a lawyer and you threaten HR and they give you a sum of money to shut you up. That's an example where you can gain from a secret enemy, or somehow someone's gossip can end up working in your favor. This could also be a thing. So it's probably going to be a combination of things, to be honest, but a lot of this depends a lot on what else is happening in the individual charts. Then you have Rahu in the second house. Rahu in the second house, and well, to be fair, I think Rahu is going to be in Aries for most of the year. But let me just focus on Rahu in the second house in Aries, and it's aspecting the 6th and the 10th houses. So, and it's also co-ruling the 12th house again. Here's the thing. You might feel, because of this combination, you might have more expenses than usual. So this is a point where I'm going to tell you to be cautious. Be cautious in the sense that, especially with Jupiter, you might become overly optimistic and overly generous. You might think, well, I've been doing well financially. I've run into a bit of money. Maybe I can treat my friends. I can treat my partner. I can treat my kids. But try not to go overboard, because with these configurations, you might have unexpected expenses and even losses, especially when it comes to the family of origin. That's really interesting. So I don't know, just to give you an example, again, maybe suddenly someone in your family of origin needs some money for whatever reason, maybe health problems, or maybe they have a loan that they can't get rid of, and somehow you might feel pressured to help them financially, and you're going to have to dig into your savings. So this is, I mean, this is generally good advice, but in particular for you during this time, you might have some unexpected expenses. Be careful. And with Rahu in the second, you might find that relations with the family of origin also become a little bit tense during this time, or they become distant even. And you might feel all of a sudden a strong interest in eating all kinds of exotic foods, which is kind of, this is just a fun fact basically. It's not super it's not super life-changing prediction, but you might find yourself suddenly becoming more interested in exotic foods, maybe spicy foods, and smoking. Like maybe you're suddenly gonna be thinking of getting a bong or shisha. Right? So that's one thing. And let's see. Be careful though, because you, through your speech, might come across as not particularly trustworthy. And this might be especially true when it comes to your workplace, your job, especially for those of you who have a job, not so much if you're self-employed. You need to be careful and you need to be diplomatic. Be very careful, because this is like an aspect of like anything you say can be used against you. So be careful with what you say, what information you divulge. This is also a good time to get work in sectors like IT, anything to do with the media, IT, telecommunications, but of course, provided that you put in the effort. It's not like going to be sent by God. You might have more opportunities though, of course, provided that you work on your skills and all that. So this is a good time to, I don't know, start a YouTube channel, for instance, or yes, just work in any kind of, get a job in any kind of field that is connected to technology, and also things that are esoteric, that are exotic, that have to do with foreign cultures. Like, I don't know, an exotic restaurant or something. Although restaurants are probably not the best business nowadays. But something to do, yeah, with foreign cultures, exotic stuff, esoteric practices, including astrology. So if you're thinking about getting some income, maybe even a side hustle, these are some good things to look at. And of course, anything to do with beverages, the tobacco and the spirits, quote unquote, industry, and pharmaceuticals, chemistry. Technology, I said that. Yes, this is pretty much what I can say, I think, about... Let me think. One positive, though, Saturn being in the 12th house, if you have had secret enemies, Saturn is going to take care of them. like, and I mean like, you know, Don Corleone, that kind of thing. Saturn's going to make them an offer they can't refuse this time. So, yes, if you have had some kind of like naysayers or people trying to make your life difficult, chances are that during this time they're going to become suddenly quiet. Okay, so this is what I can say about the chart 1 phase. The chart 2 phase. So here we have the grand conjunction of Jupiter and Rahu falling into your 2nd house. So during this time, the relations with the family of origin most likely are going to take a turn for the better. So you might suddenly become closer to your family of origin, or you might gain something from your family of origin. This could also simultaneously bring an increase in your savings, maybe an unexpected and sudden increase in your savings. But most likely, what I'm seeing here is actually you might get a new job, a better paying job, or a promotion. Or if you have your business, you're just going to get an increase of business. You're also going to be just focusing a lot of your time and your attention on second house issues. So again, this could mean relations to the family of origin. Could also mean, of course, understanding yourself more, because as I mentioned I think I mentioned this in the video I did about Saturn and how Saturn shows your life's work, that I think Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, both of them had some kind of strong connection, I think, between Saturn and the second house. And I mentioned there, second house being, the house of the family of origin, it kind of also connects to psychology. I mean, you can also kind of stretch it and say, well, it's opposite the 8th house, so that's why it's connected to psychology, but not exactly. I would say it's more because it's connected to the, family of origin, and psychology, to a large extent, is about digging through your childhood memories and the relationship with your parents and your primary caregivers and whoever else was around you when you were growing up, and that's all second house stuff. So this could just mean during this time you might be going to therapy more, you might be trying to understand yourself more and your past, which is overall a good thing, especially since you have Rahu there, which is generally an energy of trying to become analytical and rational and split hairs, if you will, to get to the bottom of things. And also, Rahu co-rules the 12th house, which is the house of the subconscious as well. It's also the house of hidden enemies, though. So again, I might be stretching it, but this makes me feel like you might be going into understanding maybe sides of yourself where you're self-sabotaging or something like that due to early connections to your family. And overall, though, Rahu and Jupiter being together is going to be mostly a positive thing. Of course, depends on which nakshatra this is happening as well in. But for the most part, this is a positive thing because Rahu will take on the characteristics of Jupiter during this time, which means that, it will become more connected to, growth and culture and education and also financial well-being and expansion. So if you want to make the most of this, I would say this is especially true for people that are creative, that are imaginative. Maybe you have a profession like an artistic profession, that those are particularly favored, but also any kind of profession where you are working with isolation or working with people in isolation. So this even leads me to something like hospital work, prison work, stuff like this. So these are the people that I think are going to make the most of these transits, that are going to have a good ride in the professional arena during this time. And if you're looking for work, these areas are going to be particularly favored. Something that has to do with, places of isolation, working alone. So, and of course, nowadays, working alone could just be working from home. But generally, traditionally, it would be more connected to things like prisons, hospitals, institutions like that, where people are treating themselves. So, I don't know, like detox clinics as well, or places where people go to basically go away from the rest of the world and heal themselves, or just meditate. Of course, this could also be connected to retreats, spiritual retreats, or even temples, churches, mosques, stuff like that, places of worship. So yes, if you are someone who has considered getting into lines of work connected to these things, this is a great time for that. You might be getting more opportunities. And of course, anyone who is in any kind of like a creative, intuitive profession as well, a healing profession. But with healing profession, I'm mainly seeing things to do with mental health, not so much not so much, let's say, like a chiropractor, something that has to do with the actual mechanical side of the body, more to do with the spiritual, emotional, mental side. And you also have the aspect of, let me see, yes, you also have all these aspects on the sixth house, which is interesting because on the one hand, like I said, this actually just reinforces what I said, that this is a great time for you to get a job, especially connected to all the things that I mentioned prior. But at the same time, this also shows the sixth house is very emphasized. So this means you could be dealing through some kind of competition at work, either at the actual workforce, or because you're just looking for a job, you're going to be brushing against all kinds of competitions. But mostly this is a good thing because, competing with others just shows you, what you should be improving, right? I mean, it can be stimulating, and it can teach you like, hey, yeah, look, my competition is getting more jobs because they have this and that skills, so maybe I should upgrade my own skills as well, right? So it can be a positive thing. It can be something that motivates you. But aside from that, with the competition, this is just a great time for you to get a job. Like I said, most likely you will get easy opportunities of employment, even though there might also be some competition, some friction. You might have to hustle a little bit to get it, but the opportunities will be there. And with the sixth house also, though, let me see this. You need to be careful with your health, in the sense that you might be overworking and you might have a tendency towards addiction. You might have a tendency to become addicted during this time more than usual, so be very careful with that. And addiction doesn't necessarily mean like hard drugs or spirits, quote unquote. It could mean even like legal drugs, but and this doesn't mean you shouldn't be taking any kind of prescription medication, but just be careful with it. Don't abuse it. Make sure you're doing it right? You're taking it the way it's prescribed. Don't take any risks. That's what I'm trying to say during this time. There might be a tendency to overwork because there's a lot of 10th house energy here, so you might be neglecting your rest. Try not to do that. So try to maintain a balance between your physical health, and exercise and meditation as well could be a great help for you with all the 12th house energy. And of course, prayer, if you are a person who is religiously inclined, maybe even if you're not religiously inclined, reciting prayers and mantras and stuff like that can really help you psychologically and emotionally to stay on track and stay clear-minded and motivated. Ketu falling in the 8th house is interesting. I haven't touched upon this actually in the first phase, but yeah, it is interesting because this means, on the one hand, that you're going to become super intuitive during this time, with the 12th house energy. So definitely, if you are someone in a imaginative, creative profession, or an intuitive profession like a tarot reader, an astrologer, you are going to see a boost in your talents during this time, and subsequently also a boost of your your business, if you have a business surrounding these qualities, because Ketu is falling in the 8th house. That makes you hyper intuitive, hyper sensitive, and very intense emotionally. The weird thing sort of is also Ketu in the 8th house could show lack of interest in physical intimacy with a spouse, or a decreased interest. You're definitely going to have a lot of like spiritual inclinations, and these spiritual inclinations will particularly influence the relationship with your, wow, like I'm seeing you're going to be analyzing a lot when it comes to your family, but also if you're married to your husband's family, you're going to become like a psychotherapist there, the family psychotherapist that constantly psychoanalyzes everyone and wants to understand, maybe to understand your spouse. You're trying to understand the spouse's family of origin a lot more. This can also show, though, there will be a distance from the family of origin of your spouse. So I'm seeing good connections because there's Jupiter aspect there, but there could also be some kind of a friction. Even worst case scenario, there could be a loss in the family of your spouse. Worst case scenario. But a lot of spirituality, a lot of like heightened intuition here. You might find yourself losing interest in your usual hobbies. Probably because of your focus on work. So be careful about that because it's not exactly healthy. You know, as in you should also take time to relax and have fun and do things just because you enjoy them, not because you're thinking about how much money they're going to make you or how they're going to increase your social status. Yes, so this is pretty much what I can see for the chart 2 phase. Let me see for the chart 3. This is the shortest phase. This is roughly from December 2nd until the end of the year, December 31st, 2023. And the main difference is Rahu will be going into Pisces. So this time Rahu will be in your ascendant. This is going to be a really transformational year for you, a really impactful year for you because you have a lot of, you have Rahu in your ascendant and then you also have Jupiter in your ascendant. And Rahu in your ascendant is going to make you much more focused on yourself. And this time it can also take some selfish undertones in the sense that, yes, you might be like all of a sudden, you want to be center stage, you want to get your way no matter what. You're going to also potentially seek to change your physical appearance. You might take on some more exotic habits when it comes to your physical appearance. So, I don't know, you might want to change your hair color to something unusual. Maybe not exotic, maybe that's not the best word. For some of you, this could literally be like you might be inspired by other cultures and, try to emulate another culture or take different, practices from other cultures and use them to decorate your body, your physical appearance, to express yourself physically, maybe in fashion. But for some of you, this could just be, you might just do anything that is out of character when it comes to the way you present yourself. Like maybe you're going to decide to get a piercing or a tattoo, or, like I said, dye your color in some strange color that you've never dyed it before, dyed it in before. So it could be things like that. However, what I think is particularly interesting is that here Rahu basically co-rules the 12th house again. So this shows to me, that there could be people from a faraway land coming over to you. So friends, acquaintances, this could be anyone really. This also shows that you're going to be getting a lot of flashes from your intuition. Like your intuition is constantly going to be bubbling and giving you insights during this time. And And the aspect to the fifth and the ninth houses, this is interesting here. This could show potentially a new interest in romance. So be careful about this, because Rahu tends to give people wandering eyes sometimes, and it tends to basically, Rahu's kind of like that little devil on your ear being like, hey, aren't you getting bored of being with the same partner? And I always say this about Rahu, really, especially when Rahu touches the fifth house, you might suddenly become antsy in your relationship. For those of you who are in relationships, you might suddenly get restless, or you might have this strong craving to experience something new. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean someone new, but with Rahu, there is that risk that you might suddenly, have a wandering eye, and especially since Rahu aspects the fifth, you might suddenly develop an infatuation with someone who is very different from you, potentially from a foreign culture, or in somehow very, very different from your usual type, someone that would be a very non-conventional option when it comes to dating. And this is exactly what Rahu does. Rahu just throws the bling bling in your face and tells you, oh, look, this is, here's a new wonderful option. Don't you want to date this person? So be really careful about this, because it's just smoke and mirrors. Everything with Rahu is smoke and mirrors. And I'm especially addressing this to people who are already in a serious relationship. Be careful that you don't hit a crisis phase where you're like, okay, I'm bored of this relationship and I want something new. Even if the relationship itself doesn't have any very serious problems, just because you suddenly develop an infatuation for someone else, or you just want something new and exciting. Because if that is the feeling, it's most likely the transit you're going to be going through. So take your time, don't do anything sudden and without thinking. And for those of you who are single, Rahu aspecting the fifth definitely can show that this is a time when you might develop a new infatuation. You might meet someone maybe of a foreign origin, or someone who's just very different from you, very non-conforming, that is going to catch your eye. You might develop some kind of a romance with this person. However, you would have to look for other places in the horoscope, your natal chart, to see if this is, something serious. If it's going to turn into something serious or not. Otherwise, it could just be, a fling, which is not bad. Unless you don't want a fling, in which case it is bad. So you want to check for that. You want to check your own natal chart and their natal chart in more detail. So, aside from that, let's see what else is going on. Let's see. Definitely, again, like I feel throughout your this year, there's a strong emphasis on jobs, career, service, and also your health. I don't know if I mentioned the health up until this point, but I definitely think for some of you, your health is going to be something that takes up a lot of your time and your energy, and that's a good thing. Like during this time, you really have the opportunity to heal yourself, whether it's a physical or an emotional ailment. This is definitely the time to really prioritize your health if you have health issues, and get to the bottom of things. Try the different treatments and whatever you can to fix it. Don't postpone it and don't sweep it under a rug. And I also think this is a great time to get a pet if you have considered getting a pet. You're going to have pretty nice, decent daily routines, and you're definitely going to be favored if you will be looking for employment. But also when it comes to employment, don't expect anything like extraordinary during this time. It's like, I mean, when it comes to employment, whether it's looking for a job or the way you are perceived at your job, it's like everything goes hand in hand with how much effort you're willing to put in. It's like you're going to have opportunities, definitely. You're going to have opportunities for growth and for getting a new job or getting a promotion, but at the same time, you have to be thorough and disciplined and do the work, and be committed to your growth professionally, because otherwise you're not going to get the benefits. Mostly it's looking good though when it comes to employment. There's definitely a strong emphasis on service. You're really going to want to feel like you are being of service to other people during this time. And also with the sixth house influence, there's a strong plus for people who are already in a healthcare field, whether it's, medical science or veterinary science, something like that. So these areas are going to be favored, right? When it comes to promotions, when it comes to just reaping all the benefits of their places of employment. Ketu in the 7th goes hand in hand with what I said about Rahu in the 1st, because Ketu tends to show that you're kind of losing interest, or it's going to be like, nah, you're going to suddenly start to be meh, you might start taking your life partner for granted. You might feel like bored, like with the things you do with your partner, unless you are disciplined and cultivating a spiritual perspective on marriage. Ketu there can create some problems in the sense that it, again, going hand in hand with Rahu, can give you wandering eyes. It might make you feel like all of a sudden a relationship is no longer meeting your needs or making you happy, even though you may not have any real grievances about this. Just the fact that, Rahu is in the 1st and is touching your 5th, you're suddenly going to be attracted, blinded by the lights, like that song by The Weeknd, like, like you're going to be attracted to flashiness and you're going to want to be center stage, and you might tend to take your partner for granted during this time, So be careful that you don't throw away a good thing just because you're going through some transits that make you a little bit impatient and bored with what you have. So basically it might make you ungrateful with what you have in your relationship. Of course, sometimes relationships have to end. I'm not trying to say that, you should stay in a bad relationship. That's why I stress, if the relationship is otherwise decent and you just want to break it up because you have developed an infatuation, let's say, for someone else, then you need to be careful, because that could just be smoke and mirrors from the Rahu energy, and it will go away after the transit. So, word of advice, be careful. Also, with Jupiter aspecting the 8th house, this is a great time for your spouse's family of origin, if you have a spouse, or long-term partner, let's say. This is, there's going to maybe be some benefits from the family of origin of the spouse, or just there are going to be good relations between you and these individuals. It also shows with the 8th house, this is a great time to take on a loan. So if you have considered taking on a loan for whatever reason, this is a great time to do it. It's more likely that you will get an approval for a loan. And let me see. Also, this is a great time to change something about, it's kind of in continuation with the second phase, the second or the first phase, I don't remember. Whether it's the first or the second, it's pretty close. It's this whole year is going to be transformational, basically. But especially during this phase, and probably continued a few more months after this, because it's not like the transits are going to end abruptly, like on December 31st. This is going to be a time when you might actually go through some kind of a transformation when it comes to your career. So if you have been thinking about changing your career, this is something you want to take into account. So, maybe plan your activities in such a way that you have new skills ready up until this time period shows up. And that will make it easier for you to transition to a different line of work or a different career, or maybe, I don't know, launch your business. So, yes. This is an added bonus for this time. But overall, this is probably the best period, actually. And, well, not the best, actually. It's, like, continued. But it's a good period, just like the second one, for your career in general. So you're going to have, a lot of opportunities of employment. Even if you are self-employed or if you have your own business, you're going to have an increase, most likely, in your finances. You're going to have an increase in clientele, and you're going to have definitely opportunities for business and employment, getting a job. Especially, again, for fields connected to creativity, intuition, maybe also psychology, healing, health, stuff like that. Especially psychology, but can be healing professions in general. And administrative positions. Teaching positions as well. That's something I should have mentioned. Yes, teaching of any kind is favored during this time. So, yes, pretty much this is what I can say for the chart 3 phase. So this concludes your predictions for 2023, Pisces, and I hope that you will enjoy these. And of course, please keep me updated in the comment section throughout the year, which parts resonated, which don't resonate. But I do also mention that these are general predictions, and if you would want something more specific, you would have to have a personal consultation, because there are plenty of factors to be looked at in an individual chart. So, if you have enjoyed this video, do not forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and also click on the notifications bell to see when I will post a new video. And also, like I said, please comment in the comment section with anything you would care to add or share or give me as feedback. And if you're interested in a personal consultation, I do consultations on a wide variety of topics with respect to both natal, relationship, and transit astrology. And I also do tarot readings. You can email me at the email address in the video description, and I can send you a pricing list and further information about how to get a reading. Thank you.